Okay, good morning, everybody, or evening, I suppose, right now. I'm going to do a deck tech for this version of Coffers because it's very different than the previous versions of Coffers that I've done. This list is based off of some of the information I gained from watching Trellin, but is quite different using my knowledge of previous iterations of Coffers to try and build something that I like a little bit more. So a few things are different in this list, and the first one is we're on 4 Profane Tutor. Now, I've complained about Profane Tutor in the past. I don't like the fact that against Chalice, against Teferi, 3 mana, Profane Tutor does basically nothing. It's a horrible, horrible card in that matchup. But there are some deck building considerations in this version that make it a lot better. The first of which is this is a much tighter list than my previous ones. Not as fun, but it's easier to sideboard in this list than it is in my previous versions. So if we go up against a control deck, we cut like 3 Profane Tutor and bring in, whatever out of the side fits better than that. We've got Thought Distortion, we can bring in Emrakul for that, both of which are castable. Now, as for why 3 Coffers and not 4, I found that with 3, I can very, very easily get to the correct number of mana every single game. And I never have, in about 6 or 7 leagues worth of Magic at a minimum of 2 games per match, I have only had 1 double Coffers opener that I had to mulligan. I've had other mulligan situations, but only 1 double Coffers. So I really like the 3 Coffers and 24 land. The other thing about the mana base is 3 Urborg. So Urborg and Coffers are great, and it's possible I may want to go back to maxing out with them. I've not actually tested 4 since I've switched to Profane Tutor from Expedition Map, but with Profane Tutor, it's really easy to get the land that you need the turn that you need it, and then use it for mana. Let's see. I always play 3 Urborg. I never play 4 because I don't like having multiples. Hey, Bargy, thanks for tuning in. I'm glad it's working out for you. Are you talking about Cryptghast? Yeah, I've thought about Cryptghast. Cryptghast does not work in this deck because we don't play creatures. If we played a creature-heavy version, it would be better because then our opponent has other things to use their mana on. But it's generally unnecessary, and we're not doing like land untapping stuff. You'd probably have to check Stream Decker, which I should update. I apologize, everybody watching this on YouTube, for the opening deck tech being a little bit longer than you guys are probably used to, but I feel like there's going to be more that I have to explain with this list. So according to this, it would be almost $300 to build it in paper. But, okay. So, other things about this list. This list taps out for a bunch of stuff, and because it taps out for a bunch of stuff, the best card advantage or cantripping that we can get through is Mazemind Tome and Relic of Progenitus. Now, Relic of Progenitus is very, very nice in this deck because we can frequently just exile the graves, take our opponent off of their strategy. If we're slowing down like Murktide trying to build Delirium, it's huge because their 3/3s are 1/1s, they can't cast their Murktides, and then we can focus like our Fatal Pushes and stuff on Ragavan, which is a big difference. It makes Thoughtseize more impactful in matchups like that, too, because we can take the card that we need to take, not necessarily... And even if that gives them Delirium, for example. I'm playing Duress in the main because Trellin was playing... He was actually maxing out on... In his list that I saw, he was playing like 2 or 4 Duress, I don't remember, and Thoughtseize. And honestly, having the 5th hand hate effect be Duress and not Inquisition has been huge, because Duress has been dead in less matchups for me. Now, I'm not sure that I should be playing a 5th hand hate effect. I kind of like it here. I like not having the life loss versus decks like Burn. I like being able to take Planeswalkers versus decks like Tron, and otherwise disrupting control decks, especially early. And since this deck is proactive, it plays hand hate a lot better than like the other control variants that I've played. Moving on to the 2-drop slot. We've got Easy Prey, that's just Fatal Push number 4. It has cycling, so it's not quite as dead as Fatal Push in a lot of matchups. We have a singleton Lithoform Blight in the main. Now, I don't want to play less than 4 of this effect, Doing well, Thunair. It's been a while since I've seen that name. Glad to have you. Lithoform Blight. Lithoform Blight is a card that I never really liked in this deck, but I also wasn't really understanding how to use this correctly. And after playing Trellan's initial list and kind of getting a feel for what he was doing, Lithoform Blight is actually integral to beating Tron. Because what you do is you Lithoform Blight a Tron land. Even if they're on the play, you take them off of turn 3 Tron. Even if you're fixing their mana and letting them cast their Sylvan Scryings and Ancient Stirrings and stuff, you take them off of Tron. Then turn 3, you Necromentia a Tron land, they don't build Tron, and then you just play any threat and win the game. So I want 4 of this effect in the main and the side, and I could swap it for a Walking Ballista out of the side and just have 4 Lithoform Blight, but I'll get to that in a minute. Why there are 2 Walking Ballistas inside him. Then we're playing Mazemind Tome. Mazemind Tome has been absolutely amazing. I used to play this in the initial version of Coffers that I built months and months and months ago. And I stopped because it was too slow versus a lot of the more aggressive decks. And like it does gain you life potentially, right? And it is slow, and you're paying a lot of mana if you want to draw cards, but in this version of the deck, it is not necessary to gain card advantage. What you want is card selection, which is different. So it's not necessary for me to have a full grip of 7 cards at all times, like if I'm playing a control deck and I want to have options. Generally, what happens with this deck is you tap out on like turn 1, 2, and 3 to do powerful things, disrupt your opponent, and then after that, you just want to dig to either find a threat, a specific answer, or a win condition. And Mazemind Tome is literally the best way to do that. Now, you could argue things like Sign in Blood, you could argue things like Read the Bones, and honestly, because this deck does not really have much life gain of any sort, the extra life payment really stacks up versus aggressive decks. Mazemind Tome, though, giving you life actually matters. It does. When Trellan built his version of the list, he was basically building Black Tron without Tron lands. And so I've kind of like merged the 2 ideas, and now I'm playing a proactive like black tap out control deck, sort of. Damnation. So Damnation is our kill spell of choice. And the thought process behind it is, if we're tapping out every single turn, every single card that we play has to be as impactful as possible. And so Damnation is a 4-mana kill spell frequently, but it kills everything all the time. And in this version of the deck, I've not had any trouble casting it. I've not had any trouble getting to it. I've not had any trouble, and frequently it's like versus control that like doesn't play a lot of creatures. I can just side it out and bring in stuff from the sideboard that's like marginally better. And it has really been a house. Invoke Despair has been probably the best spell in this deck, by far. You're a good boy, Porter. Thunair says you're a good boy. Okay, drop. Karn remains the best threat for this deck because he is both a tutor that can grab a vast majority of different effects out of the sideboard, but he's also critically important in this deck. Like, you could play other planeswalkers, right? And I have in the past, but Karn serves multiple roles, and the first one is mono black can't deal with artifacts. There are no mono black artifact destruction spells, unless you get to something that's really odd, or there might be like a gigantic black spell that could do it or something like that. But generally, black is supposed to be able to deal with creatures, planeswalkers, and enchantments. So artifacts isn't on that list. Karn deals with artifacts the majority of the time. And in this deck, you can animate your opponent's artifacts and then just kill them like they're creatures, because they now are. And you run kill spells like Damnation. So when there's a situation where your opponent has an artifact like a Batterskull, an actual Batterskull, that you need to deal with, you can animate their Batterskull and then blow up the remainder of their creatures and the Batterskull itself. It's actually really good. And I'll get to his Wishboard in a minute. As Thunair was asking, Invoke Despair is probably the best spell in this deck by far. It either deals with 3 important things from your opponent, or it draws you a whole bunch of cards and they lose a bunch of life. This is good because it is both card advantage that it's like card advantage and burn. It's like getting both halves of browbeat, kind of. But if we're blowing up all of the creatures frequently with Damnations, generally if your opponent plays one, or they play like they're like playing Tron, they end up with a great big indestructible creature like Ulamog, and you still have lands left, and then they play like a Karn. This answers both of those and still draws you a card. And the effect is probably the best 5 black symbols you can cast in this deck. Now, Torment of Hailfire, just an easy win condition. We can dig for it in the main deck, but it's in here versus Ballista for a major reason that I'm about to explain. This one should be a pretty obvious include, but generally it is like a way we can win. It's the best black fireball, if you want to think about it that way. Now, Wandering Archaic. I've been looking at this card for a while, and I couldn't really justify putting it in any deck. A lot of people were telling me it was bad, but this card has been kind of a sleeper. It's super, super good. First, it dodges Bolt. It almost always dodges Ending. It dodges Push, and if they do cast a removal spell that can kill it, and they don't have 2 extra mana left over, you can kill one of their things. This card is insane versus Burn, because your Burn opponent is not going to have the mana to pay for for Wandering Archaic's like fork effect every single time. So what ends up happening is your opponent plays something like Eidolon of the Great Revel in the burn matchup. You play Wandering Archaic. They're burning themselves with every burn spell they cast. They can't kill this creature, and every burn spell they cast, you're forking and killing their stuff or killing them. And they burn themselves out faster than you can burn them, or faster than they can burn you. Not to mention, it being on the board kind of stops your opponent from playing Storm or like Jeskai Ascendancy. It makes it very difficult for that. It's a good threat versus control because it pressures their mana, and it's somewhat difficult to answer. I actually really like this card. The other flip side of this is Explore the Vastlands is actually really good in a lot of situations. So this card lets you dig very deep to find an instant or sorcery and a land. So it's effectively like a 3 mana double impulse at sorcery speed, and it's colorless, which is a big, big thing. It also gains each player 3 life. This deck doesn't want Sickening Shoal, I can tell you that. Explore the Vastlands versus a deck like Goblins says 3 mana, you get an instant or sorcery and a land, and your opponent gets a land, because they don't play instants and sorceries. So versus humans, versus goblins, not really versus merfolk, but like a lot of those other low-to-the-ground creature tribal decks, Explore the Vastlands is very good. And it gains you life in that situation, too, which is very important in the aggressive matchup. So I really like this card, because it's never dead, early or late. It's a 5-mana threat, which is a big deal when we're talking about Urborg and Coffers and how they line up in the mana base. 5 mana is a big, critical mass point. Okay, out of the sideboard. I've already explained Lithoform Blight. We've got 3 more in the sideboard. Necromentia remains our best Memoricide effect that we can play in this deck because it is 3 mana. And the zombies don't quite matter as much because we're playing Damnation, although they still do matter occasionally. We're not playing Victim of Night as our removal in this version, so it's not like sometimes our removal matches up bad against our own cards, if that makes sense. Thought Distortion still remains as a one-of, and it's basically a house. It's how it beats... It's how we beat control, really. Dude, Davian Skywalker, I've been brewing this deck for literally, since Coffers was printed in Modern Horizons 2. The list that 5-0'd yesterday is a variant on my list. I know how to play this. So the Karn Wishboard, we've got the standards. We've got Liquimetal Coating, Ensnaring Bridge, and Sundering Titan. Those cards should be self-explanatory. Engineered Explosives, this is a nice one to have. It's kind of weird that we can only set it on 0 or 1, but frequently that's all we need to do. Chalice of the Void, it's useful versus things like Living End. No, it wasn't Trellin. It was somebody else. It was actually playing almost my exact list that I played in the... it's the list that I played before I played the challenge. I can give you a link to the video where I did it too. And now 2 Walking Ballistas. Final thing. So Walking Ballista is really, really good, and Trellin was playing 3 in the main, 1 in the side. In this version, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit worse because Wandering Archaic can't pick it up. And it's a great card to wish for in this deck because you generate 1 billion black mana. And so you just, like, basically fireball your opponent with 1. Sometimes when you're playing Karn, you wish for 1, you end up using it up slightly early before you're quite ready to hit critical mass, but you need something to reset the board. So you wish for a Walking Ballista, you put it on, like, 3, you kill all their stuff, and then... you can't find a relic to exile it out of your own grave. So it's important to have 2 because you might need to use 1 early, and the second one you win the game with. Okay, I'm sorry for that very lengthy deck tech, but this is much, much different than my previous versions of the deck. So we're going to go ahead and take this into a league. Now, I've been having a lot more success with this deck than my previous versions, simply because the lines that it takes are more consistent, and the play pattern of the deck is more consistent. You don't have to mulligan quite so hard all the time like in my previous version. If you got lucky with my previous version, the deck was basically unbeatable because you had an answer to everything. But in this version, with it being consistent, it's a lot easier to consistently 3 and 2, or 4 and 1. So we're gonna see how this turns out. Alright, round 1, here we go. Well, a no-lander when you're playing 24 lands feels pretty bad. So we are going to mulligan that. Alright, this hand seems great. I'm going to keep, and I'm going to put back Wandering Archaic, I think. I'd rather have the Karn and the Damnation. Yep, let's see what our opponent does. They're also playing Swamps. I wonder if they're playing Coffers Control. You'll see. You'll see, Raelin. Doubter. Alright, Besieju Who Endures. This is probably the green-black, like, what is it, green-black rock that I've seen a couple of times. Hey, Mav, not my birthday, but thanks for tuning in.
Happy birthday!
Oh, gosh. So many creative ways to die to Lightning Bolt. Just you wait. Just you wait. Interplanar Beacon? Well, it appears that we are against mono planeswalkers. Thoughtseize might be important, but I do need 1 more mana producing land. Okay. We untap, we draw a Relic. I need to hit a land this turn, so I think I'm going to go ahead and crack Relic. Okay. Play Bloodstained Mire, pass the turn. Yeah, Modern Super Friends. That's what we're playing against. This is not a deck I've ever seen, so I'm gonna have to try and judge it based, like, on the fly. Okay, Zagoth Triumph for our opponent. They take up to Fairy. It appears to be Sultai. Let's crack and get a Swamp. We're probably not Fatal Pushing anything. We untap. We draw Coffers. Okay. Play Coffers. I probably should just play Karn, so I'm gonna do that. Okay, we're gonna go get Liquimetal Coating, and we're gonna pass. I hope we see a doubling season. I'm kind of hoping not. Well, I mean, I can Invoke Despair, and that would be great. Okay. It is not doubling season. It is Nissa Vital Force. So they can kill Karn. Alright. Until your next turn, it becomes a 5/5 elemental with haste. So I could Stone Rain them with Damnation. Or I can just cast Invoke Despair, and it's really good. So I'm going to do that. You lose a land, and you lose a Planeswalker. Bet you wish you were playing Koth now. And we drew another Invoke Despair. Perfect. Okay, pass the turn. She only needs to uptick once before she ults, and her ult is infinite card advantage, so I would not be surprised if that's what's happening here. Jace the Mind Sculptor. Okay. Gonna Brainstorm, seems reasonable. I'm interested to see if he ults Nissa or upticks. I do fully expect my opponent to play Veil of Summer out of the side, Okay, they hit us for 5. Is there a natural place to second guess the things I do? I mean, it's probably there. Okay, let's go ahead and Invoke Despair again. I mean, blowing up lands has been pretty nice. That Urborg is going to be great. They keep Nissa Vital Force. Okay, they're going to play Mazemind Tome, pass the turn. I explained during the 15-minute deck tech why I'm not playing Sign in Blood. Okay, opponent ults Nissa. Now whenever they play a land, they draw a card. It's pretty good. A casual 14 mana. They get a tap land. Okay, play Verdant. I mean, if I top deck Torment of Hailfire and they're not playing counterspells, then they're probably going to be sad. Imagine if they're tapping out for Planeswalkers all the time, they're probably not playing counterspells. Grist the Hunger Tide. Hey Sigma, how's it going? Okay, they uptick, milling a Fatal Push. On our opponent's end step, let's go ahead and scry. Relic to the bottom. What's the kill number usually on Torment? It's not usually very high. It only has to be like 6 or 7 most of the time. Okay, let's go ahead and draw a card. Hey, it's a Karn. So play an Urborg. Activate. Play Karn. Let's go ahead and wish. And I think I'm going to go for... it's probably actually got to be Ballista, because I have to deal with Grist. I want it to be Sundering Titan, but... I could turn Grist into an artifact if I play Coating. I think 4 is enough, so we're going to do that. Kill Nissa. Play Liquimetal Coating. Okay. Pass to our opponent's upkeep. Okay. Opponent cracks Verdant Catacombs. They get a Godless Shrine untapped. Interesting. You got a Fatal Push, maybe? They do. Let's go ahead and kill the insect. And ping our opponent. Okay. Shut off Grist. They are going to Prismatic Ending Coating. That's fine. Not sure why they didn't Prismatic Ending Karn. Maybe they couldn't, actually. Okay, they play Lily. Gonna make us discard. It's at this point I'm probably not gonna need this Damnation. Probably. So we'll get rid of that. Okay. Stop on our opponent's end step. Scry. I do like me some Invoke Despair. I'm gonna leave that on top. Untap. Draw Invoke Despair. So, yeah, let's go ahead and invoke. I'm missing out on a mana by not playing that swamp, but if I draw Coffers, which I did, that matters a ton. So, I guess we're getting Sundering Titan now? Play Sundering Titan. Opponent is going to evoke Solitude? You just don't want any lands? Is that what I'm hearing? I mean, okay, enters and leaves the battlefield. Let's see. Plains, island, forest, swamp, and then swamp. Okay. Well, I still have a ton of mana, so let's draw a card. Hey, Wandering Archaic. Yeah, I think it's good enough. I think if my opponent casts anything, we get a copy. Then we'll play a Mazemind Tome. Pass the turn. And we win the game. Perfect. Okay, so Thought Distortion's coming in. I probably want Emrakul over a, probably like a Fatal Push. I know, right? Nice to see you, amigo. Thanks for tuning in. I don't actually think I want Lithoform Blight, but I'm not sure like what I would take out.
He's already dead.
Let's see. Is there anything else that would be good in this deck? I didn't see any Planeswalkers that like we couldn't deal with. So I don't really know that I need Necromentia. And I might have to kill a token or a land, so like actually Fatal Push is probably fine. I'm going to drop a Lithoform Blight and actually play 2 Fatal Push still. And we're going to run it back like this. Okay, this is a perfect opener. We're going to keep... Oh yeah, I forgot about Damnation. That's true. Okay, opponent did mulligan. Give him the old Thoughtseize. Grist. Oh, it's a Karth the Lion deck. Alright, we'll take Grist, because opponent's not doing anything without him for a while. I guess it's good I didn't completely cut, like, Push and Damnation if he's playing creatures that do actually need to die. Let's go ahead and play an Urborg. Profane. Now, if my opponent actually lands a Teferi prior to this Profane going off, I'm going to be really, really annoyed. But yes, I should have kept in a Fatal Push over a Damnation. Okay, opponent top decks a Verdant Catacombs and fetches a Swamp. Plays Lily. Gonna make us discard, probably an Archaic. Okay, Tutor ticks down to 1. We draw Easy Prey, which is not terrible to cycle. So we know our opponent has 2 cards left in hand. It's Karth and... I would normally explore the Vast Lands, I think, in this situation. But I'm not going to do that because my opponent might actually need the mana. So I'm just going to play a Swamp and pass. Opponent draws. They found a land anyway. Okay. So they play Windswept Teeth. They crack Windswept Teeth. So opponent is going to be able to tick up a Liliana quicker. They find a Grist. Okay. Going to make us discard. We're going to discard the other Archaic, and what's going to happen here is we're going to Profane Tutor for Cabal Coffers and hope to draw, and that's kind of the situation. Let's go ahead and cycle Easy Prey. Other Karn's not actually that bad. Profane Tutor coming off Suspend. Let's go get a Coffers. We draw a Relic. Okay. Look at the sideboard again. I don't really want Ballista, but pinging Liliana prevents her from ulting for a turn. So I'm probably going to have to... Oh, no, I can't do that. Never mind. That was really dumb. I miscounted my mana. I thought I had 7 and not 5. I don't have a... I don't have a Pithing Needle in this version, but I've already committed to the play because I wasn't thinking. So we're going to take a Ballista and play out a Relic. Okay, pass the turn. So, opponent can ult Liliana, and she will stick around with 1 loyalty because of how Karth works. Okay, the opponent plays Grist. Makes a insect, milling a Grist, so it makes an additional insect. Yeah, the alternative line was cycling Relic and hoping to draw something better. Like, it's not actually that terrible of a line, but... Okay, opponent kills Karn. I think if my opponent was going to ult Lily, they should have done that prior, I think. Because I think the other permanence like makes the split harder for us, but okay, opponent has 0 cards in hand. Okay. I mean, neither did we, so we draw a Fatal Push. Okay, so this means we play Verdant, crack Verdant, get a Swamp, kill Karth, and we are also going to Ballista to kill Liliana. Opponent does have an active Grist, but, I mean, we're really just a Coffers away from being fine. Which, I mean, we could top deck 1 of 2. It's not that difficult. But this is probably going to go to game 3 unless we have a pretty good series of draws here. Okay. Opponent is also playing Thrun, so keeping the Damnations in is correct. We untap. How you doing, Karn? Good to see ya. Okay, opponent Oath of Nissa. Fixing their mana perfectly forever. They get a Windswept Teeth out of the deal. They play a Windswept Teeth. Uptick Grist. Hit us for 3, we go to 12. We untap. Draw Duress. Well, it's better than drawing a Thoughtseize. Except when your opponent has a Solitude. We're going to take 4. Opponent has 4 creatures in the grave. We cannot top deck anything that matters in one turn, so I'm going to go ahead and concede. Okay, so knowing what we know now, how do we want to adjust? I'm not actually sure that we do. I mean, I can keep 3 Damnations and I can bring a Fatal Push back in. Because it matters for Karth and it matters for, like, Grist tokens or animated lands a little bit more. But, okay, run it back. Yeah, seems fine. I mean, it could be better, but we have a Profane Tutor. And I don't really want a mulligan to 6, even though Emrakul kind of makes this a mulligan to 6. The only way this is bad is if our opponent has 3 mana to Fairy. It's true, we can't always discard Emrakul to Lily. Okay. So we're going to lead on Relic. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Godless Shrine. Looks like they're going to go for the Prismatic Ending. Or not. We draw a Verdant. So I'm going to play Verdant, and I'm going to fetch immediately. I was thinking about playing Locthwain this turn, but it only matters in the event that we have to push something, and that's not going to be for a bit yet. Okay. We untap. Profane Tutor ticking down. We draw Fatal Push. Okay. Play Verdant. Pass the turn. The reason I played Verdant is because we still might need to count the number of swamps for like an early Coffers without Urborg. So we're going to be playing out basically as many swamps as possible first. Opponent has Teferi, which is kind of the nightmare scenario, but it's not that big of a deal. Okay. I'm going to fetch, and I'm going to sack Relic to draw, so opponent can't draw. Okay, I'm going to cycle Easy Prey, because I'm not going to need it. I get a Bloodstained Mire. Okay, Profane Tutor's coming off Suspend. We can't cast it. We draw Mazemind Tome. Play Castle Locthwain. Play Mazemind Tome. Pass the turn. I don't need my Exile Zone open anymore. Okay, opponent plays an Interplanar Beacon. It's Jace, then, probably. Okay. It is a Jace. Opponent upticks to Fairy. They are going to Fate Seal us. Okay, they leave it on top. It's probably a land. But we don't actually mind because drawing lands are... Oh, it's a Damnation. Okay. Okay, we'll just draw. Just draw. Okay, let's give our opponent a Duress. Opponent has Liliana of the Veil and Prismatic Ending, so we take Lily from them. They can flash in a Solitude next turn. So we play Bloodstained Mire. One thing that we do need to be aware of is, as we are drawing and scrying with Mazemind Tome, if we put a bunch of cards to the bottom of the deck that we don't want to play, fetching with our fetch lands actually potentially puts those cards back where we can draw them. So it is important to make a note of that as you're playing a deck like this. That's a trick we used to play back in Ad Nauseam. Never shuffle the deck, and then eventually you'll draw what you want. Okay. Opponent brainstorms with Jace this time. So we really don't know what's in their hand anymore. They play a Swamp. They play an Oath. Yeah, I'm not gonna fetch necessarily just yet because opponent could play something like Karth. They get Nissa off of their Oath of Nissa. Yeah, Urborg making the fetch lands work a little better is quite fantastic. Okay, opponent plays Grist. Yep, uptick Grist, milling a Utopia Sprawl. So, on their end step, draw a card. It's a swamp. We untap, draw naturally. We draw Karn. Play a swamp. I mean, we're probably going to want Ballista, but we wouldn't be playing it this turn if I were to wish. Liquimetal Coating does nothing. I have a Relic in exile I can wish for. I mean, if I top deck a Coffers, I'm going to want Sundering Titan. But if I top deck a Coffers, I also want Ballista. Ballista's probably more valid in more use cases. So I think I'm going to Karn and wish for Ballista. But I'm not going to play it just yet. I could Fatal Push this Insect token, and then they don't have an immediate answer to Karn. No, they do, because they have Nissa. Okay. In that case, we're just going to pass. We'll draw another card with Mazemind Tome in response to like a Teferi bounce, if that happens. Okay, opponent plays a Verdant. It's going to be difficult to beat this many active Planeswalkers, but I don't think it's impossible. Opponent upticks. 5 mana, black and white, no green. Oh, it's because they have Oath of Nissa. Okay, they play Nissa Vital Force. They just don't have to worry about what they're tapping. For a second there, I thought they were playing Sorin. No. No, it is not. It's not worth playing Eliminate. If I was going to play a kill spell that would kill Teferi, I would probably play March in this deck. But, don't think I'm going to actually play March in this version. They leave it on top. Well, we have to fetch anyway. Because we're going to activate Mazemind Tome. Sorry, I don't have the command set up. Opponent goes to combat. Attacks and kills Karn, attacks us for 1, that's fine. Karn down. Okay. Fetch with Bloodstained Mire. Get a swamp. Draw an extra card. Invoke Despair. Okay, that might be something. Draw another swamp. So I can play Ballista X4, but that doesn't do anything to really anybody. So we are going to cast Damnation. And then pass. For not having any prerequisite knowledge about your opponent's deck, you seem to be keeping your punts to a minimum. Well, there's only so many things you can do in a Planeswalker deck like this. Some of them I feel like might be really obvious if you've played the Modern format long enough, but there's also so much I can do in a deck that's built to kill a lot of creatures and not a lot of Planeswalkers. So, I mean, if we can draw Coffers and get to Emrakul, like, you know, what's our opponent gonna do? But okay, opponent gonna Fate Seal us. They're gonna leave it on top. Okay. Opponent goes to combat, attacks us for 5. That's fine. We take 5. Go to 11. Okay. Opponent's end step. Draw an extra card. We gain 4 life. Draw Wandering Archaic. Thought Contortion's not that great when most of the stuff your opponent has is actually on the board. So I think what we're going to do is Fatal Push this Insect token. Then Invoke Despair. So they sack the planes, they sack a Planeswalker, and an enchantment. We draw no land, or we draw no cards. Okay, pass the turn. Mine or my opponent's? But let's see, 5 mana. Opponent flashes into Solitude. Okay. I mean, they could have flashed that in to not have to sacrifice a land, but they didn't. Upticks to Fairy, upticks Jace. We are 2 turns away from Jace ult, and we can delay him a little bit if we have to with Ballista. They animate another land. I appreciate that. I should have actually thought about that after you asked about the deck. We untap. We draw a Fatal Push. So I think we're going to explore the vast lands this turn, because we're looking for coffers. We'll have to see what our opponent gets. We are going to pick up Swamp and Invoke Despair, because that answers another Planeswalker. Opponent gets an Interplanar Beacon. So we got 2 cards, opponent only got 1. I think I'm dead if I cast Invoke Despair, though, because they would sack Solitude, animate a land, and hit us for 10. I could Fatal Push a land and play Ballista on 2. Then I can chump and ping. Or I may not have to chump, actually. Okay, play a land. Fatal Push. No, I could have cast Invoke because my opponent can only animate 1 land. This is only until your next turn it's a creature. So that's actually a mistake. For some reason I thought it animated the lands permanently because I was thinking of the other 5-mana Nissa. Okay, so we're going to play Walking Ballista. Opponent is going to Boseiju. I'd love to let this resolve. Should I? Hang on. Okay, so my option here is I can ping Jace twice to keep him off. I can ping Jace once, and he stays off of alt for a turn, which he will anyway, because he has to get up to 13 first. Or I can ping Solitude, or I can let this resolve and get my 8th swamp. If I do, and I top deck Coffers, then I would have 8 swamps, 1 castle, and 1 coffers. So I could tap Coffers and 2 swamps to have 8 mana plus 5, 6 more. So that'd be 14. I'd be 1 off of Emrakul in that case. I think at 14 mana. It's not quite enough. So I think I have to ping Jace twice and not accept the additional land. Okay. Opponent's turn. Opponent plays a land. Bounces nothing, just draws a card. Opponent Fate Seals us. They leave it on top. That does not bode well for us. They animate an Interplanar Beacon. But even if I Damnation this turn, I will be dead to that Nissa. Opponent has another Grist. Okay. We untap. Well, that doesn't quite get us out of lethal range. But I'm still going to explore the vast lands here, see if we can't get a better option. Nope. I thought it was 14. It's possible I did the math wrong. So it would have been 8 swamps, Coffers. Coffers taps 2 swamps and itself. So there's 6 mana, and then I get 8 more, which is 14 plus 1. Yeah, I should have actually done it. You're right. It would have involved me drawing a Coffers, which I probably wasn't going to do. But you are correct. I did the math wrong. I should have done that. So that's another punt. Yeah, there's nothing I can do here. Alright, opponent, you win. I'm not so sure that we're favored in that matchup. Locthwain is not a swamp, no. It'd be really broken if it was. Could you imagine fetching that land? I like your optimism. I like your optimism. Well, I mean, like, we're pretty well set up against anything that plays a lot of creatures or anything that plays a few planeswalkers. It's, like, casting Invoke to deal with your opponent's single big planeswalker generally is enough. But when your opponent has planeswalkers, so many planeswalkers that your targeted planeswalker edict doesn't target anymore, then, you know, it's kind of a problem. Grosbill, thank you for following. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, this seems like a hand. We'll keep. Against most decks, I think this is good. And it's Tron, which this hand is not good against. Alright, let us commence thinning the deck. We have a single Lithoform Blight in the main deck. They did mulligan, so I guess if they stumble, play a Planeswalker and we can actually invoke it, then not that big of a deal, but game 1 is practically unwinnable against Tron. Like, you'd have to have some very heavy, like, hand hate. Especially when you're on the draw. Well, it's not a turn 3 Tron, which is the first step to us winning. It will be, it looks like a turn 4 Tron, though. So we're going to need a Coffers. I'm going to go ahead and exile this now. We are going to need an Urborg on board. Could have played Bloodstained Mire to fetch and thin, but did you hear that e-girls are rebranding? They're now called eye-ladies. That was like a 90s to 2000s transition, wasn't it? When they stopped putting the lowercase e in front of everything. Started putting the lowercase I in front of everything. Opponent plays a Chromatic Star. So they will have Tron next turn. I guess in that case, we just keep making land drops. LAD's nuts. That wasn't even a good D's nuts joke, man. Alright, opponent correct star. Gonna go tutor for... I think they... Never mind. I shouldn't offer my opinions to the Tron player. Okay, it's Karn liberated. They're gonna take Urborg. That's fine. Relic to the bottom. Play Bloodstained Mire. Fetch. Get a swamp. I mean, if they have to keep taking turns off of... Or they'll have to take one turn off of down-ticking Karn unless they have a second Karn. I mean, if they have a second Karn, I don't think I can win. Alright. Alright, opponent, you win. So versus Tron, Fatal Push kills nothing. Bring in the Lithoform Blights. We cut down, I think, all the way on Damnation. And we bring in Necromentia. And might as well bring in Emrakul, I guess. Apologies. Sigma, can you add this link to the deck command? I forget what the command to add commands is. Alright, I'll play first. Versus Tron, this is awful. Ironworks MTG, thank you for following. I mean, Duress is fine, but the rest of this hand is not. I really want to mulligan to Lithoform Blight. Opponent also mulligans to 6, so we're going to go to 5. I guess between Thoughtseize and Karn, we're going to hope that that's enough. We've got to put back Torment and Archaic here. Go Thoughtseize. Okay, opponent has Mine and Tower, and they're worried about me blowing up their lands, so they brought in Crucible Worlds. Okay, take Star from them. Pass the turn. I think Crucible Worlds is terrible in Tron. Just absolutely atrocious. Opponent leads on Tower. We draw Lithoform Blight, which we know we can delay for a turn, so we're going to play Mazemind Tome. That's a turn 3 Tron if I ever saw one. Yeah, probably. Opponent plays an Urza's Mine, plays a Relic, and is passing. Let's go Scrying with Mazemind Tome. Karn to the bottom. Untap. Scry before draw. I do want another land, and an Urborg is not bad, so I'm actually going to top that. Play Urborg, and play Blight. Now we have to dig as fast as we can for Necromentia. There it is. Now we just have to Necromentia a power plant before our opponent can find one. Relic and Crucible Worlds, yep. Oh, they played another tower. And put Ballista on one. We untap. Let's go ahead and scry. We're really just looking for land, and out of our land we're looking for coffers. Okay, swamp's fine. Play swamp. Necromentia. Opponent, I think, should crack Relic in response because they'd at least get a zombie if they do draw a power plant. Okay. Well, they're gonna have some trouble with that that Crucible Worlds. Yeah, it's got Swag Tusk in it. Holy crap. Sorry, I have to respond to something really quick. Okay. Sorry about that. Orfeo. Opponent plays another Urza's Mine. You're gonna hit us for one. Put a counter on Ballista. Okay. Scry on her upkeep. Profane Tutor. I'm gonna put back. Land is nice. Play Karn. Wish. And we are going to get Ensnaring Bridge. Pass the turn. Okay, opponent attacks Karn down to 1. They play a Ghost Quarter. And here comes a Thragtusk. Okay. We untap. Draw Wandering Archaic. Play Ensnaring Bridge. Uptick no targets. Pass the turn. Opponent may try to Ghost Quarter lock us by using Crucible. Like, trying to force our hand to fill up so then they could beat us down with creatures through Bridge. We play a lot of basics, so that won't work for a very long time. Because they couldn't. They Ghost Quarter themselves to get a forest. Okay. Not sure how I feel about that. Then they play Oblivion Stone, which they can't activate. We untap. We draw another Necromentia. We're going to cast Explore the Vastlands. Like, opponent is somewhat dangerous if they get enough mana. So, like, potentially this is actually really bad. But we really, really need to hit lands. Okay. Well, we somehow dodged all of our mini instants and sorceries, so let's get a swamp. Oh! A land card. I can take 2 lands? A land card and or an instant or sorcery. I should not be able to take 2 lands, if I'm reading this correctly. Each player looks at the top 5 cards of their library and may reveal a land card and or an instant or sorcery from among them. So that should be a land card or an instant or sorcery card, or a land card and an instant or sorcery, not 2 lands. So I'm not going to abuse this, even though I think it's bugged. I'm probably going to report that as a bug. Get all the basics out of their deck and then can make land drops every turn. I guess that makes sense. So we're just going to get a swamp. Even though it let me select 2 cards. Opponent gets a tower. And they get a Sylvan Scrying. Play a swamp. Uptick. Necromentia. I guess we'll Necromentia Karn Liberated? They have a Worm Coil, they have an Ulamog. Are they playing Great Creator? They are not playing Great Creator. So the next threat we have to worry about is basically Ulamog or Ugin. Okay. Pass the turn. Okay, opponent replays mine out of the grave. Opponent plays a Worm Coil Engine. Okay, we draw another Necromentia, so... Ulamog, Ceaseless Hunger. Only other card in opponent's hand we don't know about is a Chromatic Star. I could wish for Ballista now. Yeah, let's do that. Because that gives me something to do with my mana in case I just keep drawing lands. Okay, pass the turn. Opponent Ghost Quarters himself. They get a forest out of their deck. Replays Ghost Quarter. Sylvan Scrying. They get a Blast Zone. Okay, that Blast Zone is a problem, because that Blast Zone will be able to deal with Ensnaring Bridge. Not sure why they didn't tutor for that right away. Uptick Karn. Counter on Ballista. Pass the turn. Ghost Quarters himself again. Gets another forest. I mean, if they're going to not play Blast Zone and take it up immediately, then... Oh, they have Nature's Claim. Alright, we're in trouble. We're in big trouble. It sucks. Everything at us. Okay, they changed their mind. Everything at Karn. Block here. Yeah, Crucible's probably going to beat me here. I mean, it's not Crucible that beat me. It's Nature's Claim that beat me. And I mean, like, we're at a very high life total, so we're not dead in, like, 2 swings. It gives us the opportunity to top deck something like Coffers and then something else. Opponent plays a land. Plays a star. Plays a map. We untap. Draw a Relic. Okay. Nuke the Graves and draw again. I took out my Damnations, otherwise they would be very useful. There's Coffers. Okay. Well, we're going to wait, because our opponent... actually... We just got rid of their Ghost Quarter. Okay. So we're fine to play Coffers. They likely do not play 2, and I didn't check their deck list. I mean, had we had Coffers sooner, we would have been fine. Opponent maps for Sanctum of Ugin. Okay. I mean, there's stuff we can draw. Just, you know, have to hope we do. If we start, like, chaining together Invoke Despairs or something like that, we could be fine. Crucible did not beat me. Okay, they hit us from 26 to 13. Hey, Thoughtseize, how you doing? Thanks for showing up late. Well, alright. Alrighty, on to round 3. You know, it's always right after I talk up a deck where I'm like, yeah, I'm having a lot of success with this. I'm doing really well. A lot of, you know, I'm doing a lot of interesting things with this version of the deck. You know, I've 3-2'd like almost every single time I've played this deck. Immediately after I say that, it's like, you ready to go 0-5? Because I am. It's so irritating. Alright, we'll play first. Perfect. Tron again? Oh no. I guess. I'm trying to think if Sylvan Scrying or Stirrings is better. If they top deck Sphere or Star, Scrying is better, so we'll take that. Have you thought about talking about how you play and how you're a bad player? It might lessen the negative karma you deserve. Oh, wow. Scathing commentary from Mr. Sigma. Play Mazemind Tome. I mean, the sideboard plan worked, just not all the way. So I guess you could say the sideboard plan failed. Orfeo, I love talking to you. You're a great human being, but that was kind of a non-statement. Oh my gosh. Oh my god, Raylan. The main deck of this deck is not bad. It's just not working right now. Alright. Opponent goes for the tower. Say scathing as if you weren't expecting it. Oh, I guess I should be expecting it then. Let's go ahead and scry. I do want a Coffers, so we will leave a Coffers on top. Play a Swamp. Pass the turn. I guess technically I can draw a card in case I draw like a Relic. Okay, it's a Swamp. Pass the turn. Seem to do well when you're happier. Oh, so that's the other thing. I mentioned this in my Discord, but I am on different medications starting today, which I am on a completely different classification of medication. So, this is so good. Thanks, Tarek. Can't wait to watch that one. I'm not on tilt. I'm also much lower energy right now, because it's much later in the day, and I'm no longer on a stimulant. So, do with that information what you will. Opponent plays an expedition map, so we really need a Karn, and we need him this turn, so we're going to scry. Anything that is not Karn goes to the bottom of the deck. Invoke Despair is pretty great, but I really need a Karn. Okay, Profane Tutor is kind of a Karn, just not yet. So suspend Profane Tutor, pass the turn. And generally when I'm at that higher level manic energy is when it's easier to play the game and be silly. And I just don't have that right now because I am much more tired than usual. So they can get Tron this turn, and I can't think of a reason why they wouldn't do that. I mean, as long as they don't immediately follow this up with a Karn Great Creator, we're probably okay for, at least a turn. But they've had a lot of opportunities to draw threats, so... Well, they're still drawn. Oh my gosh, Raylan. It's not my birthday. It's never going away, is it? Oh gosh. Let's see. How to ban my own Twitch mod. Alright. Wow, Tarek, awfully presumptuous. Oh my gosh, you guys are relentless today. Well, we draw an Invoke Despair. Let's draw a bunch of cards. I might actually need this to deal with Planeswalker, so that might actually be a bad idea. Let's draw first and see if I draw Karn. Get another Mazemind Tome. Okay. Play Mazemind Tome. We're going to redraw. Alright, Thoughtseize is something. Okay, opponent untaps. You know, they gotta have a threat now, right? Okay. Opponent plays Karn Liberated, takes Coffers. It's about what we expect. Then plays a second tower. Okay. And they're going to start drawing cards. Opponent cycles Chromatic Sphere, scryings again. They get a third Urza's Tower. Profane Tutor coming off Suspend. I could get Coffers here. Or I could get Karn. I kind of need both. Coffers lets me Thoughtseize this turn in addition to Invoke. So I actually think I'm gonna Coffers. I'm gonna Scry though. I'm not actually like able to draw a card right now. Put a Swamp to the bottom. We draw a Relic. Play Cabal Coffers. Thoughtseize. See what's going on. If anything, they have a Worm Coil. They have an Oblivion Stone. Take the Worm Coil. Then Invoke Despair. This opponent's going to sack, and then we're going to draw cards. Okay, we draw the very excellent against Tron Fatal Push. Pass the turn. Opponent sacks Relic to draw a card. That's fine. What the heck is going on in my chat? I look away for 1 second. Alright, we untap. We draw Thoughtseize. Play Verdant. Crack Verdant. Let's draw a card. There's Urborg, so that's a lot of mana. Play Relic. Cycle Relic. Draw Castle Locthwain. Okay, Thoughtseize. See if they drew anything good. They did not. Because if they did, they would have played it. So I'm not... I mean, it's still worth checking, right? Opponent untaps. Okay, opponent plays an Ugin. It's a very expensive lightning bolt. Not sure why they didn't play Sanctum of Ugin first. That would have been like an immediate follow-up Ulamog, but okay. Draw easy prey. So, play Urborg. Draw a card. Gain some life, too. Okay, Wandering Archaic. Cycle Easy Prey. Hey, Invoke Despair. Let's do that. There's our Karn. Alright. That's the turn. We're going to discard probably a Damnation. Opponent plays an Expedition map, cracks it. Gets a Nurturing Peatland. Okay. Sack that to draw. Then they pass. We untap. We draw Swamp. So, play Castle. Play Karn. How am I not dead? Because my opponent refuses to draw a win condition or play cards in the correct order. Okay, let's wish. Let's get a Sundering Titan. We'll take out a Power Plant and a Forest. That should briefly take them off of their mana. If I have to, I can Damnation my own Sundering Titan. I just might. Opponent plays a Sanctum of Ugin, we untap. They can't activate O-Stone. Should probably just burn them out with Ballista, right? That seems reasonable. Play a Swamp. Go to combat. Hit them for 7. Alright. Opponent recognizes that we are going to burn them out. Okay, Lithoform Blights. Necromentia in. Fatal Push out. And I guess we'll cut down on some Damnations, but not all of them. I don't think I'm going to bring in Emrakul. That actually seems wrong. Run it back. That was game 1? Wow. Alright, well we have Thoughtseize and Lithoform Blight and Karn. Just have to remember to play Urborg first. Kano can't count. Well, we had to take him off mana first, I think, right? Because we needed more mana and the damage the next turn to actually kill them. I don't think I did. Opponent mulliganed to 3. Alright, what's the last card in hand, opponent? What you got? Oh, 2/3 of Tron. That's not a bad mulligan. Oh, man. Okay. That's a turn 3 Tron. You watch. It's going to be a turn 3 Tron into a frickin' Karn. And, like, or it'll be turn 4 because we Lithoform Blight them and then they top deck the duplicate. Just watch. Wow. Holy crap. That is some excellent draws. I'm just going to lose to the absolute top decking Tron god. I never have that kind of luck when I play Tron. I wish I did. I'd be winning tournaments. Okay. They play an Urza's Mine. I mulled to 3, and I top decked the 3rd piece. They play out Oblivion Stone. We untap and draw Verdant Catacombs. So, play a Swamp. Check our opponent's last card. Take the Sphere from them. Play Tome. Pass the turn. Oh, Raylan, that's dumb. I'm sorry. Oh, opponent is going to have the tower. And Tron is going to be assembled. Again. Oh my god. Okay. We have to fade 1 draw. Exactly 1. If we can dodge a Karn for 1 turn, we win. Do you have it? If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a Karn. Oh, they sent me a message. My opponent says you're trash, and so is your deck. Wow. Alright. That's very polite of them, I guess. Well, I mean, opponent, you're playing Tron, so... Says man who has exclusively played Tron for like 2 years. Yeah, in the losers bracket. Yeah, no, like we are in the minimum number of wins necessary, or the maximum number of losses. Excuse me, the maximum number of losses to still make some sort of prize. We are playing for half of our entry fee right now. That's actually hilarious. All right, this seems like a good hand versus most decks, so we're gonna keep it. Okay, opponent leads on Marsh Flats. There's no Luris. This probably isn't Hammer. Alright, you can take one of my 3 Thoughtseizes. Go ahead. Or the push, I guess, if you're a creature deck. That would make sense. Opponent is currently reading Invoke Despair. They take Fatal Push. Okay. We draw Cabal Coffers. Thoughtseize. Opponent is playing a Abzan Rhino deck. Take Kaya from them. Pass the turn. Opponent plays Windswept Teeth. We untap. We draw Verdant Catacombs. Was that player really 0-3? Like, prior to my matchup? They couldn't even win anything and they got that salty? That's impressive. Thoughtseize again. Batterskull. Well, we can Duress Batterskull, so take Siege Rhino. And Duress. Jeez. Take Batterskull from them. Pass the turn. Opponent has a Fatal Push and a Lingering Souls. They crack Windswept Teeth on their main phase. They get an Overgrown Tomb untapped. They play a Swamp. And they cast Lingering Souls. We untap. We draw a Relic. Right on time. Play Relic. Cycle Relic. We draw a Swamp. Okay. I probably should have played and cycled Relic to play the Swamp first. Because I actually don't want to play Locthwain out this quickly, but... Okay, opponent's holding Fatal Push, 1 unknown. I definitely should have done that, because it matters for Coffers. It's a 5-mana draw 3, and your opponent loses 6 life against an empty board. And we take 2 and go to 11. We draw Karn. Play a Swamp. Invoke Despair. Okay, we draw a Thoughtseize and a Verdant Catacombs. So, like, kill a thing, your opponent loses 4 life, and draw 2. Seems good. Opponent has a 3-mana instant. Kaya's Guile? Kaya's Guile. They gain 4, make a flyer. Opponent goes to combat, hits us for 2. We go to 9. And they play a Tarmogoyf. We top deck Damnation. Thoughtseize. Opponent has Prismatic Ending and Fatal Push, take Ending from them. Play Verdant, crack Verdant. Blow up the world. Pass the turn. Opponent passes. We draw another Karn. Activate Coffers. Play Karn. Wish. We'll grab Coating here. Play Coating. Stop on my opponent's upkeep. Shut off their white mana. Titan next turn. They could top deck Hand Hate here, which is what I'm playing around. Okay. Opponent is forced to pass. Draw Mazemind Tome. Wish again. It's Sundering Titan. Play Sundering Titan. Armageddon our opponent. Pass the turn. And opponent scoops. Okay, versus Abzan. I don't actually think we make any adjustments. We could bring in Necromentia for, like, Lingering Souls, but I really don't even think that's necessary. Yeah, let's just run it back. No worries, Tarek. I'm glad people are enjoying it. I'm thinking in the future, I'm actually considering not streaming on Wednesdays anymore, on only streaming on Sundays for the foreseeable future. It kind of depends on how this medication situation works out, because if I'm tired at the end of the day, and by the end of the day, I mean I've been up since 4, and usually I start streaming at 4, which is 12 hours after I wake up. Like, there's a really good chance I'm just not going to be having a good time. Especially, like, not being on a stimulant and, you know, making it all the way through the day and stuff like that. So, the flip side of that coin is generally a lot more people are, like, available on the weekends to watch or hang out or do whatever. And so, like, I think it's probably a more available time slot for people. And I can stream for like a lot longer too. I can play in more modern challenges and stuff like that. Okay, opponent plays Stoneforge Mystic. Okay, they do have Kaldra. We untap and draw Swamp. So push. Exile. Opponent plays a Blooming Marsh. Plays another Stoneforge Mystic. Okay, that might actually be a problem. They get a Batter Skull. Let's draw an extra card here. Well, Relic. Draw another card. Okay. Play Relic. Pass the turn. So we're going to get smacked with Kaldra. Oh, you know what the worst part is? So Karn's bugged, and like, I don't want to take advantage of this situation. But like, the correct choice when you're this many resources in this deck is to play Karn and animate Kaldra. But when I do that, because Karn's bugged, Kaldra's going to turn into a 1/1. But you do that because the token falls off and then they can't re-equip Kaldra. So like, you take a smack for like 7 instead of 5 normally, but like, it's worth it. And I really don't actually have a choice here in the matter. Like, this is something I actually have to do. Oh, they fixed the bug! They fixed the bug. It's a 7/7. Okay, now I don't have to feel bad. That's fantastic. Okay, opponent plays a forest. They go to combat. They kill Karn. And they do nothing. We draw Profane Tutor. They're going to put Batter Skull into play. We really need to hit a land, so I'm actually I'm gonna Relic here. I could double Suspend Tutor, and that might actually be good. But, I mean, at least I drew a 1-mana spell that I can cast alongside a Tutor here. Opponent's gonna put Batter Skull into play. That seems reasonable. Integrity, maybe that's why you punt all the time, because you feel bad about making your opponents lose. No. We gotta take Siege Rhino here. Suspend Profane Tutor and hope we live long enough. But yeah, we basically just traded a Karn for a Kaldra, and generally that's like a pretty decent trade. We're gonna take 5 here. I cannot do the same thing on Batter Skull because I'll actually die immediately. Because they can make a 1/1 at instant speed. Fatal Push here is a good draw. I'm kind of sad that we can't play Karn yet, but Fatal Push should keep us alive, because we can just hit the token. Okay, opponent gains life and makes a creature. They untap and draw. They go to Thoughtseize, so we push the Germ token. A cool trick, though. Did I figure it out myself? Well, I knew about animating equipment falling off, and I've known that for a very long time. Because there's other, like, you animate a creature into an artifact. Or, it's, what is it? The actual original way that I found that out is with, like, Mycosynth Lattice and I think it's Bludgeon Brawl or something like that, and then Volshock Battlemaster. so that, that combination, you can't equip creatures to other creatures unless they have reconfigure. Okay, so this is a Damnation. Pretty easy, I think. It's the only thing we have that kills both things and keeps us alive. So Damnation. Pass the turn. We are very dead to Akaya's Guile. We are also very dead, I think, to Lingering Souls. Or Siege Rhino will kill us too. Kaya, I don't think deals damage. I think she gains life with her plus. They pick up Batter Skull. And then they play a tap land. Okay. We untap. Profane Tutor coming off Suspend. I could Duress the Batterskull. I think the correct choice is actually taking Coffers here. Okay, we get a Karn. So let's Invoke Despair. Make him lose life. We'll draw cards. I cannot cast Thoughtseize. I will die. So suspend Profane Tutor. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Verdant Catacombs, so they're still holding Prismatic Ending and Batterskull. Okay. We untap. Profane Tutor ticking down. We draw Urborg. Well, that's a lot more mana. So play Urborg. We have a total of 11 mana. Okay. Invoke Despair first. They can pick up the Batterskull and replay it again, but this draws us 2 more cards. Okay. Let's go ahead and play Karn. I mean, if they're not paying attention, they can't get their Batterskull back. Okay. Let's go ahead and wish. And we're going to get Walking Ballista just in case. If I play it out, they immediately Prismatic Ending, so I'm not going to play it out yet. It's more efficient to play it next turn. Or I could just cast a really big Torment of Hailfire. I guess that's also a possibility. Okay. Opponent fetches up a Temple Garden. They untap. Okay. Inquisition. You can take whatever you want. I mean, if you don't take the Torment, you're probably going to die to it. This turn, actually. Pretty sure it's lethal. Because they could sack Cauldra, Batterskull, and discard Ending. And we would have, what is that, 6, 7, 8 swamps. We'd have 14 mana. So it'd be 12 times 3 minus 3 times 3. So that'd be 9 times 3, it'd be 27 damage. So they have to take Torment or they die. Like, they have to take Torment or they die? Okay. Okay, good. Opponent can do math, too. Actually, Torment, did I not kill them by not casting Torment this last turn? Because that would be silly. And entirely my fault. I think I just grab another Coffers here. That might have been a punt, yeah. Let's get a Coffers. Okay, play Coffers. Nope, I'll just go ahead and mark it. Hang on. We can't outright kill them with Ballista, and opponent is still holding Ending. So we're actually going to get Sundering Titan and take our opponent off of white. Because this is a plains, this is a swamp, and that's a forest. Perfect. Now we can play Ballista safely. Okay, opponent untaps. Then we Thoughtseize to make sure our opponent hasn't drawn it out. No, I don't think we do that, Raylin. I don't think we do that. Yeah, I'm sorry if I missed that math on the Torment. I think I would have actually had them dead last turn to it instead of playing out the Karn and no, because they had the Batterskull. That changed things. Because they could sack the token and the Batterskull. I think. I don't know. Kano brain hurt. Play Castle. Uptick on nothing. Go to combat. Attack. Add a bunch of counters to Ballista. And opponent scoops. We are now 2-2. All right. Oh man. Hang on. I'm gonna show that on stream. So this is Orfeo says this is why they ask so many questions, and I'm like, y'all got any more of them pixels? Man, my man's streaming in the legendary 120p. I'm sorry. It's not even 120p. It's 120 pixels. Treasure chest, here we come. Tarek, now you jinxed us. How dare you say that, Tarek? Oh, man. Speaking of, if you haven't, and you want to... Why do all these sites pixelate Kano? It's like I'm made out... It's like I'm Bigfoot. You can't shoot in focus footage of me. It's my superpower. Alright, we are keeping this. This is good against most decks. This is not good against Burn. I hope this isn't Burn. Okay. Let's go ahead and lead on a Duress. Is this like Crack the Earth land destruction? Nope. This is Blitz. Wild Slash, Opt, Manamorphose. Manamorphose is their most broken spell, so that has to go. This looks like an old build of Blitz. When I first found you, I would watch your streams at a bus stop, and I'd get better quality. Damn. That's saying something. So I think here suspending Profane Tutor is actually better than Mazemind Tome by a small margin. This opponent hits us for 1 off of Sprite. We're going to play Urborg, suspend Profane Tutor, pass the turn. They played this Fire Islet, so they're holding Wild Slash, and we don't know what else. By quality, Orfeo meant streamer. He was watching Spike. Damn, you got me. That's pretty brutal, Sigma. Alright, we're getting Wild Slashed for a lot of damage. Profane Tutor is ticking down slowly. We draw Bloodstained Mire, play a Swamp, play Mazemind Tome.
Emotional damage!
Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They draw. They're just gonna do as much damage as possible. Play a Swift Spear. I really, and I mean really, hope they don't have a Spell Pierce.
Happy birthday!
Okay, we take 5 and go to 8. Scry on our opponent's end step. I guess we actually should... No, scrying there was fine, because we want counters on Mazemind. But we can't scry until after we tutor. That would be a punt. Okay, it's Profane Tutor. Damnation is the choice here. So, once again, really hoping... Hey, we top deck a Thoughtseize. Let's just play it safe. Thoughtseize first, because Counterspell is legal. Oh, they have a 3rd Sprite Dragon. I'll take that from them. They got a Soulscar Mage. Blow up the world. That was lucky. Whew. Alright, pass the turn. Are you somehow implying that I have obscene birthday cakes? Okay, let's scry. Swamp to the bottom. Untap. Scry. Relic to the bottom. Draw another Urborg. Play Bloodstained Mire. Play Karn. Let's downtick Karn. And I think putting Chalice on 1 might be in order. So let's go ahead and do that. No lightning bolts, please. Chalice on 1 versus Blitz. It'll never work. I mean, watch them just chain 3 Manamorphoses into, like, I don't know, something crazy. Alright, cycling Fiery Islet seems good for us. Play a Spire Bluff Canal. I mean, if Karn survives with 2 counters, we're getting Sundering Titan again. We're about to gain 4 life, so opponent, if they can't kill us this turn, we will likely... Never mind. Opponent abrades my Mazemind Tome. Apparently they're not worried about the Chalice on 1. They're more worried about us having the life. They could actually just kill us with prowess triggers. Like, okay, they're going to hit Karn down to 1. We untap. We draw Torment. Alright, let's do it. You know, I'm not sure it's the right play, but it's definitely the coolest play. I mean, 6 times 3 is 18, so they literally have to discard their only card in hand, sack Soulscar Mage, and go to 3. We will have to Ballista to kill them, yes. And if this second Urborg had been any other land in our deck, this would have been lethal. They discard Stormwing Entity. Okay, uptick Karn. Pass the turn. I think this is one of the few times we are not dead to Bolt. I mean, even if we were at 3, I don't think we'd be dead to Bolt. Hooray! Torment won the game! With our Vial? You mean our Chalice? No, I'm not going to animate my own Chalice. Let's see. I should probably take out Lithoform Blight and just replace it with Walking Ballista in the main. I think I'm going to do that. I'll try it like this. This seems like one of those matchups where Wandering Archaic is actually good if it ever resolves. I mean, we have Damnation, and we have Thoughtseize. We have something to do on the first 2 turns of the game, so I'm probably going to keep this. Hopefully Thoughtseize is enough to make our opponent stumble. It's kind of relaxing to watch Kano as though he's being streamed to a GBA. Alright, that's a Duress. Lead on Urborg. Thoughtseize. We're Thoughtseizing because we want to take creatures if possible. I'm going to take a Braid from them. No, that is unwise. I can Duress a Braid. We'll take Lightning Bolt. I gained 1 life. Put a Crack's Arid Mesa, and gets a Steam Vents tapped. They untap. They play Spire Bluff Canal, which is the land they just drew. We draw a Swamp. Duress them. Take a Braid. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Plays a Soulscar Mage and Mountain. We draw Cabal Coffers. Play Mazemind Tome. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a land. They go to combat, hit us for 1. We go down to 17. Scry. Bloodstained Mire to the bottom. Untap. Scry. Swamp to the bottom. Draw Swamp. Now I can either cast Damnation or I can cast Karn. And I think I cast Damnation, actually, because Karn I can put Chalice on 1 immediately after next turn. An opponent will have to use both Wild Slashes to kill him. So play a Swamp. Activate Coffers. Play a 4-mana kill spell. Pass the turn. Opponent cracks Arid Mesa. Trying to thin their deck. We get a Steam Vents. Opponent passes. We untap. Scry. Ganja de Jenga, thank you for following. Hey, I recognize that name. Yeah, you play goblins, right? I was gonna say the repeated creature matchups were good for inflating my ego. We'll play Castle Locthwain, then we'll play Karn. Let's go ahead and wish with Karn. I imagine they just wild slash. Oh, they have a lightning bolt, okay. Well, in that case, let's Chalice, actually. Am I planning on doing anything on St. Patrick's Day this year? Which day is St. Patrick's Day? Is it Thursday? Does it fall on the 17th, fall on a Thursday, is that right? I'm sorry. Okay. Because I actually, on this current medication that I am on, I cannot consume alcohol. At all. Normally on St. Patrick's Day, I just get really drunk and stream and have a good time. I will not be able to get really, really drunk, but maybe we'll do a Melvin stream again. That'd be fun. Okay, let's open up our treasure chest and talk about the deck a little bit. We get 5 play points, a Pact of the Titan, and Tamio's Journal. Oh, no worries. Actually, I think I'm gonna go ahead and make the determination right now. I'm not going to be streaming on St. Patrick's Day. I will, because I'm considering just moving all my streams to Sunday. I'm not gonna stream on Wednesdays anymore. Simply because of the new medication. If it's St. Patrick's Day, I'll be tempted to drink, and I'm not supposed to be drinking, which is fine. I have no desire to drink, so. I just don't want to stream in the middle of the week because I have a full-time job now. Okay. Well, I've always had a full-time job, but I have a full-time job and I'm no longer on stimulants. So, talking about the deck really quick. I think in this version of the deck, Profane Tutor feels a lot better than in any other version of the deck that I've ever played. I think Mazemind Tome is pretty fantastic in terms of like getting us deeper into the deck and figuring out, when we need to draw versus when we don't need to draw. If you have tons of mana, you can just draw cards willy-nilly. And if you don't, and you're looking for a specific card, you can just start scrying through your deck really quickly. It's been good versus aggro, just gaining a little bit of extra life. I'll agree that Wandering Archaic kind of is derpy, but we didn't really get to see any of the matchups where it shines like regular burn. It would have been fine if we'd cast it against our previous opponent, the prowess opponent, because they also will not have the mana to draw. They won't have the mana to cast their spells and prevent you from forking them. Am I not playing the BG list anymore? I played a BG list in testing for, I think it was literally 1 league that I played that version, because I think the mono black version's slightly more consistent. But as for Wandering Archaic, I'm actually thinking that you could probably just, in this slot, it may not be necessary to play the creature. I'm considering playing either Increasing Ambition or Mastermind's Acquisition to just grab stuff out of the sideboard. That would let me move Torment away from the main deck and I could play ballistas in this slot again, or whatever else. I am probably I don't know how many more videos or times I'm going to stream this variation of the deck. I do like it, and I think in general it is stronger because it is more consistent. But yes, this is the Quadra Damnation list. Given how important the lands are, is map ever coming back? In this version, I don't even think you play map. I think you play Profane Tutor. Simply because if you play Profane Tutor on turn 2, you get the land that you don't have, or you have the lands and you get threat. And occasionally getting Damnation with it on turn 4 is really important. I will say that this version of the deck is much, much easier to sideboard in. It's it's easy to feel like you can take things in, or you can take things out and put other things in their place. They're nice drop-ins and easy swaps you can do in this version. So if you don't like having to think about a ton of singletons and what's good and what's not, but you like playing coffers, I recommend you play a list similar to this one. And yeah, I think this list is generally more consistent, and I think it's probably not. It's stronger on average, but it has a lower power ceiling, I think. And you're tapping out pretty frequently, so you're never really going to hold up stuff for your opponent's turn unless you have nothing to do. And I'm probably going to go back to brewing with a list more similar to this one, because I figured this new version has given me a lot of ideas for how to improve the old one, because I liked the traditional version, which was like, you play a big mana control deck and you go tutor for your win conditions and things like that, where this is more like playing a Tron deck. And that's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's probably, like I said, better, but it's not as fun for me personally. So, all right, I have to call it here. This was a long... Is Mill a concern, or is Emrakul just for sideboard? Just bring in Emrakul, and it's not really that big of a deal. This deck does have trouble dealing with Mill, I will say, so it is kind of tough, but thank you all so much for tuning in, and I really appreciate all the follows, and I think you guys are great. Hopefully you guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, please consider subscribing to the channel, leaving a like, dropping a comment, and you can follow me on Twitch. I'm going to be streaming on Sundays. Apex GSXR, thank you for following. Trying to think if there's anything else that I need to call out here. Also, we have a Discord, !Discord, or you can find links either in the YouTube description or on my Twitch channel page. You can join there. We've been brewing this deck a lot. There's been a lot of discussion going on. I have a primer in the works. There will be a primer for just a reference sheet for what cards to include, what cards to stay away from, and why. And that'll be in the Discord. It'll be maintained, and yeah, stay tuned for more Coffers and Tron content. But I'll see you guys next time. I'm gonna roll the credits now.